Well, hello and welcome everybody to this episode of the podcast. This is our monthly Q&A episode where we have a live audience that joins us to ask their Reiki questions. We also try to get to emailed questions and different questions that people may ask us in social media. So we're very glad to be here and for all of those that are joining us here live and those that are listening later. If you do ever want the live link to or the link to join us live, you can sign up for the podcast list on our website. So it's reikilifestyle.com and it's under the podcast tab. So you can get the link every month to that. You do only need to sign up for that once. So if you're already on that list, you don't need to sign up again. But if you're not, and you would like to join us live and ask us your questions, that's the place that you would go ahead and do it. So anyways, Robyn and Colleen here. Colleen, if you wanted to say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Awesome. So how we do this every month is usually, we say hi, we do an invocation to just kind of bring our circle together. It always helps Colleen and myself to really bring us here in presence, and also really using the Reiki energy as the backbone of all of the things that we do. I know we kind of talk about this often enough. But the invocations really just help us to bring the circle together, of course, but also listening at a deeper level to the answers to the questions. And so that's why we always do the invocation pretty well right off the bat. And then we get into the questions that we have here today. So a few announcements. This will be released during the holidays. So happy holidays to everyone. A few announcements that we have coming up. The first one is that we will be doing a live burning bowl ceremony during our distance Reiki share. So that is going to be, let me make sure that I have the date right. So that will be Tuesday, January 3rd at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. And essentially what the burning bowl ceremony is if you joined us for a gratitude ceremony or watched it later on YouTube, we do a gratitude ceremony during kind of the Thanksgiving time frame, and then we do a burning bowl ceremony every year kind of during the New Year's time frame. And so essentially it's just a time frame to let go of the different things that you need to let go of from the past year, and also to bring in the things that you would like to bring in for this next year. 2022 was a pretty intense year, I think, for kind of everybody. And so it's a really great opportunity to just spend time in that really sacred space, in a community of people that are there intentionally and doing the same thing, to really, and utilizing the Reiki energy to do this work, and to go in consciously and intentionally to really let go and bring in. So that is like I said, Tuesday, January 3rd, at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. It's free and open to everyone, regardless of any Reiki experience. So even if you listen to this podcast and you don't have any Reiki experience, that's completely fine. You are welcome to join the burning bowl ceremony, and also our distance Reiki shares, which we do every Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. And those are free and open to everybody. So anyways, if you're already signed up on our lists, we will be sending that link out and information out about that to kind of our whole newsletter list. So if you're signed up for the newsletter or the distance Reiki share list, you will receive that link and that information. So you don't need to sign up again. But I know that there's definitely a decent amount of people that aren't signed up for that, that might want to receive that link. And more information about that. So you can just go to reikilifestyle.com, sign up for our main newsletter, or sign up for a distance Reiki share newsletter, and we will send those links out. So that's that coming out. And then we don't have any classes over this time frame. So our next classes are Animal Reiki at the end of January. And then we also are starting our Next Step Reiki classes, which are January 18th and 19th. And those are monthly additional Reiki training skills. Also, we are adding Exploring the 12 Heavens this year. This next year, which is a year-long course where we go in and explore the 12 levels of consciousness. We know that there can be more, they can be defined as other things, and also commune through those levels with our spirit guides. So you can go to reikilifestyle.com ongoing training tab to read more information about that. Also, I think Colleen and I are releasing another episode of the podcast in a few weeks with information about that. So if you want to hear more about that, you can listen to that one. All right. I think that's good for announcements, right, Colleen? Okay, perfect. All right. So Colleen, I don't know if you want to go ahead and lead the invocation today. You're muted.
I can do that.
Great.
Okay. All right. So everybody go ahead and get comfortable. And just a caveat for those of you that may be listening, these invocations can actually go pretty deep and they can take you into quite a Reiki state of relaxation. So be sure you're in a place to listen to them that is safe. And, if you are listening to it while you're busy, let it just wash over you. And, just a heads up. And what you can do is go ahead and fast forward to the conversation and listen to this later. All right. So go ahead and close your eyes and take some deep breaths. Place your hands in Gasho and focus your attention on the space between your palms. Your hands begin to activate as the light fills your breath, flows through your body. And as the light flows through your hands and into your heart, the gift of love. Open your heart and receive as the light and the life force of Reiki flows through you. As you breathe in the power of love, the divine mind, pure heart, the light of the earth and the light of the infinite, awakening the light within. Breathe deeply and receive. Place your hands comfortably on your body where you're guided. And breathe into the place where your hands are. Receive the light of the earth as it fills your body. And you remember now your body is made of the earth. The heartbeat of the earth beats in the same rhythm as your own heart. The minerals of the earth, the colors of the earth, the biofields and electromagnetic fields and the frequencies of the earth are here. And you breathe deeply and receive, allowing your body to be refreshed and restored with life force and vitality, vibrancy. The colors of the earth flow through you. Reds and oranges, yellows and greens, blue and indigo and violet. The gradient shades in between and the colors above and below. flowing through you as the light of the earth rises through your earth star, the chakra below your feet, in the earth. And the light of the earth rises through you like a column of light, flowing through your body, your auric field, and revealing the light of the earth within you. Breathe deeply and receive. And the light of the earth rises through you, and the light on your breath flows through you and upward through your central channel, flowing upward through each chakra, through your crown chakra, and upward through your soul star above you, and into the infinite. By so many names it's called, by the name you call it. And the light of the heavens flows through you. And when you listen, you can hear the heartbeat of creation beating in the same rhythm as your own heart and the heartbeat of the earth. Breathe deeply and receive. As the colors of creation flow through you and fill your body, unifying, integrating, merging with the colors of the earth within you. And the purity of the colors within you grows strong. And your body aligns with the earth, with the heavens, your human spirit, your divine spirit. As the light of the earth rises through your earth star, through your root chakra, and up through your left side, your left channel, flowing through your left hip, left shoulder, left side of your brain, through your crown, your soul star, and receiving the light in the infinite through your left channel, unified, merged within you. The frequencies of creation, of love, truth and beauty and grace, and this light of pure consciousness and divine heart, pure love. And the light of the earth rises through you and rises through your earth star and through your right side, your right channel, flowing upward through your right hip, right shoulder, the right side of your brain, crown chakra, and through your soul star and above, and receiving from above and below, and realizing this light is your light. It's all right here within you. One breath, one light at this moment in time. Like the tree of life, you're deeply connected with the earth, your roots connected with the earth, the ground waters, the bedrock, the fire and the air within the earth. The powerful creation force of the earth that's here within you, revealed within your instincts, your intuition, your imagination. The light of the divine from the heavens shines through you, the source of creation, the creation force. And it's all right here within you. Your divine spirit and your human spirit are one spirit. There's no separation. Sometimes it can seem as if you are separated from your own self because of ways and worries of the world and teachings of the world. And so you breathe in the light, and the light envelops those beliefs in separation and carries them into the light where they can be healed and released from you and the burdens of them. And your light is unified. The earth, your heart, the heavens, one light, right here in this breath at this moment in time. Perceptions expand now all around you as the life force and the light force, spiritually guided, is all around you. The higher frequencies of Reiki and the enlightened realms, higher consciousness, higher thought, the field of possibilities open. Beautiful beings of the light are here, and your perceptions expand. Become aware of them, those that you are in relationship with, and gathered here with all of us. The angels and the archangels, the ascended masters and brothers and sisters in the light, divine animal kingdom. Breathe deeply now and receive as your senses heighten and your inner awareness awakens and reveals your inner truth, your inner knowing, your inner wisdom, your inner authority, your independent thought and knowing, awakening your gifts and your talents, your capabilities, your human spirit and your gifts and your talents of your mind, your heart, your gut, all aligned so that you can hear yourself, perceive yourself. Breathe deeply now and go within and listen to the quietest sound you can hear within you. The light of grace, the light of compassion fills your breath. Sonar, Halu, Hearth, and Rama, Nosa, Yava, Shanti, Kriya. Grace, compassion, truth, and beauty. Look inside and say thank you to you now as you receive. Because you are here and you are listening, because you are hearing you inside of you and listening to you. To know you deeply, who you are. divine animal kingdom is standing in a circle all around you. They invite you to the center of the circle. And the angels are all around them, and the other beings of the light are here in a gathering in the tree of life. And their light is shining for you. And the songs of the angels flow through you, awakening your song. And the blessings, the divine animal kingdom flow through you. Beautiful waves of light flowing through you for you. And you receive. And you take a moment to walk around the circle as the blessings flow through you and yours awaken within you. And you share your blessings in a beautiful exchange. Greetings. After a while, you come to a place in the circle of life that is opened for you. And you are invited to take your place here in the circle, in this circle of light and life. And your light is brilliant like all the light here. So say thank you to you. You belong here, a part of the blessing fields. Say thank you to you. We say thank you to each other. Our circle is always divinely ordered, gathered here today, breathing in and receiving, sharing. We say thank you to the enlightened ones that are here, all this light of Reiki. And we say thank you to the teachers who came before us to bring us these ways, the descendants who come after. And we are honored to be here at this moment in a lineage of light bringers. Thank you. And so it is. Okay, so what are your insights around the resistance, opposition, life turmoil that comes up when people are making personal spiritual strides towards things that are transformational, like taking a Reiki class? Okay, I'm making sure I can read this out loud. It says a personal example. The morning of my first ever Reiki class, I had 2 different plumbing leaks come up at my house that had to be addressed, as well as getting a notification from my bank that my credit card had been used for fraudulent charges and had been deactivated. That's a bunch. And says, I know I'm not alone, having heard that it's common for these kinds of things to kind of culminate before undertaking a spiritual growth endeavor like a Reiki class. And I'd welcome your insights as to what might be going on there and guidance you have in navigating those waves of resistance. Well, the first answer I will give when you have things going on in the Reiki class or a client or things that are coming up and you're kind of responsible for that. The first thing is remembering Reiki on the fly. Just ask Reiki to be here now, like help me with this. And then remember that it's real life. Real life things happen. And also, it's really important in those situations to not make it about you by getting really worried about it or upset about it. And so I've had many circumstances that things happen before a class that, I really have to think about, okay, what do I have to do here? What are my solutions? How am I communicating this with my students? And making sure that they are comfortable and not kind of engaged in my thing, or I'm not spending a lot of time on it. And in these cases, of course, you needed to have solutions, so plumbing leaks you kind of have to address. And so in that case, then you do what you have to do and explain it to the people. But I've really had to learn to I guess it goes back to stay stable, be kind. Like just stay stable through it all and ask Reiki to help you do that. And then there's the next part of it that I think is interwoven in your question about the resistance that can come up or the turmoil that comes up with Reiki. And I think one of the things that you find is that it will teach you according to certain things that you need to grow in or know or become more skilled is maybe a better way to talk about it, to become more skilled or even to become aware, because even to become aware of the idea that these things can really be at a deeper level, a level of resistance, that's an amazing awareness because it actually really can be. And of course, there's going to be a certain amount, like if you're starting to teach a class or whatever, that you can have nervousness. And then when things happen, that adds to it. And so really one of the things that you are learning is how to stay stable in those situations and to use Reiki to do that. Then other forms of resistance have shown up for me in spiritual ways that I would say, I actually wrote an article about it, Reiki Heals Spiritual Resistance, because what I discovered was that through this journey, there have been many times that I've encountered some pretty intense resistance to moving forward, wanting to do the next thing, maybe accepting some of the training I was receiving, some of the just all of it, just resistance. And of course, that can come in for a lot of different reasons. And sometimes it's actually very real because, there's real things that go with that. There's real reasons behind it and physical life reasons behind it. And then to take it to the next level of that, what I really discovered through those times of resistance for me was that as we are on some of these journeys, it's really a very circular path. And we're used to the path going straight and used to the idea that, linear does this, but it's a circular path. And it spirals. So as you go around the circle and you come back to that place, and now you have all this experience from that circle, and you come back to this place, you really have the opportunity to decide how much further you want to go. And do you want to start on the next circle? Is that something that you want to do? And so what I found out was that it showed up as resistance. And so I had to work through the resistance, which was more difficult. Once I understood that, okay, I'm making a decision. How far do I want to go? That made it a little bit easier, but it still often showed up as resistance. And resistance to me, for me, was sometimes, oh, irritation. I can't do it all. I don't want to do the next thing. I think I have as much as I can take. A lot of those kinds of qualities, or like, I want to quit. That was one, like, I'm so done. And so what I know though, is that I do want to go forward. And I do want that next spiral, that not only is it spiritually compelling, but for me, it's endlessly fascinating and fulfills my curiosity. So these studies and these courses of studies I am fascinated every day. And I always feel like there's new curiosities, new exploration, which for me is part of what I like doing. So then what do you do about it? So it always goes back, for me, it always goes back to that. Like, what do you do? And that's going to be different for each of you and all of us. For me, what I learned was I kept showing up, because I did know I wanted to continue, and that I had to just like hold to my own center and keep showing up. And what that looked like is I continued in my training, I continued in my personal development, I continued in my empowerment, because we often think, oh, I'm doing it so I can heal. Well, a lot of it is resistance to being empowered. It can be resistance. For me, part of the resistance, and I think this is true for a lot of people, was I had a certain level of invisibility that I maintained, even though I've always, kind of known a lot of people. I still had that like field of invisibility. And so some of that felt like, well, as soon as I kind of grow in that next level, I'm going to be more visible. And then I learned that the visibility was for me, so I could see me, and that it didn't have to do with being public. How I became visible was my choice. That's a human decision about what you want to express, and learning that with Reiki, there's no requirements for that. So that was the next level of resistance, was, well, if I understand all this, if I know all this, what are my requirements? What do I have to do? And then comes in that old style of earning it and working hard for it. So that added to the resistance. And then the next level of resistance was really authority. And I think that that's true for many of us, because this particular path is really a path of independent authority, inner authority, rather than the outside authority. And so kind of like really navigating through that, because so many of us were born into the outside authority and being told what we can and can't do, and particularly with our spiritual beliefs or our spiritual practices, that there's a resistance there. And another resistance that I hear from people is, well, then what about the resistance other people have towards me? if I go these ways and talk about them. So there's a lot of reasons I think the resistance shows up, and each of you may have your own. Sometimes it's just plain, I'm too busy right now, or I have so much going on, I just can't do one more thing. And that one, I would say the lesson I learned during that level of resistance was that, and that's when I really learned a lot about Reiki on the fly, that it did not have the requirements that I do things exactly a particular way every time in order to connect with the energy and work with the energy in my daily life, that it would respond to me in whatever way I needed it in that moment. And so that gave me a lot of freedom and opened up a level of like, oh, kind of relief. Like, really, I get to just do it my way, how I need it in that moment. Because on the other hand, I also love many of my rituals and practices. So it's not that I have discarded them. The difference was learning they were for me and my experience. They weren't a requirement of Reiki in order for me to make that connection, have it work with me, help me navigate in my daily life and apply it and actually apply it. So that was another piece, as I learned that it is really something that I can use all the time. It doesn't have to be. I originally think I just thought it was like during sessions I would do Reiki, or I did Reiki during a self Reiki session. And then I learned that I could do Reiki at any time for any reason and any way that was appropriate in the moment. And like I say, I love my long practices and my hour-long self Reiki, but there are many times that I need it to be, 5 minutes or 15 minutes. And it was such a relief to me to discover that Reiki would work my way, however I needed it. And so I think the other piece of that also, Steve, with talking about it as resistance, is to know that it's normal. And probably, all of the teachers that I think of that I know, they have had resistance. We all have it. We run into it at different times. It can be totally unexpected. And suddenly, boom, it shows up and something triggers it. So I think that that's the other piece. And then let yourself like use the Reiki energy how you need it at the time. And then one of my biggest resistances that I really had to work through was when I first received Holy Fire Reiki. And it was like, man, I just was like, what is this? And the energy was so strong and it was different, but I didn't know why. And I didn't really have a big understanding of it, but I knew that I was going to commit to working with it and get to know it better. And I made that commitment. And that commitment also really helped me through it. And I had learned that over the years of my shamanic training. If you go into different types of training, they're going to ask you to stay focused on that training. And particularly in many of the trainings that I had with different communities and teachers, and then you're focusing on that particular training so that you can learn about it and understand it. And so I had already learned about the value of making a commitment. And so when I had the initial resistance with Holy Fire Reiki, I knew that I was going to make a commitment, and that I would, the commitment would carry me through it. The energy of the commitment would carry me through the resistance. But one of the main things I did was pretty daily. I would say, just get me on the other side of this resistance. And it showed me how, like when you take a vacation somewhere, and you get there and it takes how many days to kind of settle into the fact that you're in a vacation. And then finally, by the end of it, you're on the other side of that beginning. And it was like that, like, get me to how I'm going to be on the other side of the resistance. And I would use the distance symbol. And I mean, actively set that intention to get me on the other side. And like to integrate what I needed to know about it, and also to ask for it to be more gentle and kind, so that I didn't have to, really like struggle so hard with it and struggle against it so hard. So, but at that time, I recognized it as resistance. So that is a big piece right there. As far as other things happening, I would say, I mean, I've had a lot of things happen at the beginning of a class, during a class, during a ceremony, before a ceremony.
Hey, Colleen,
Yeah.
just also answering like from the perspective of why it happens to students or clients.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, because they have similar, students and clients also have similar things going on for them. And I think one of the most surprising pieces of me for Reiki was how physical it is. And so it physically can show up like in your body, like a detox type of an experience. It can be a mental detox or a spiritual detox also. And often we can have hidden resistances that come to the surface to be healed, to be revealed and healed. And so Reiki energy does that. And, it's not always comfortable. And that's, I think, a surprising part of it. And it's just like when you have acupuncture or a massage, it can, you can be even sore from it the next day. During class, I find people have a whole variety of experiences, all the way from some challenging ones, uncomfortable ones, to the big aha moments. As a teacher, I just allow Reiki to guide them through their process, rather than me trying to step in. And, I mean, obviously you can do some of that, but in the class setting, to just let the Reiki energy do what it's doing with that person. And typically what I see is if a person has a difficult experience during a class, that by the end of the class, it's resolved. The other part of that is sometimes the energy is a really big shift for a person, and remembering that somewhere it's been what they've been asking for is that shift. Either they can look back and retrospect and listen to kind of some of the words they've been saying, the thoughts they've been having, and it can generate the shift that they've been asking for. And, I can use the example of when we received online Reiki, and that energy, and even the world peace energy. It was very electric. And I would say uncomfortable, except that I had more experience with the discomfort to be okay with letting that, be part of what I was going through. The world peace energy, when I received that, kind of suddenly all the areas that I could get triggered on inner peace showed up. And it was like, you think you've kind of overcome it all. Like, okay, I'm on the other side of that. Yeah, no. I had all the things show up that I did not have inner peace about. And so then I had the opportunity to release it and to be empowered in my inner peace, which I would say from a lot of people that I'm talking to right now who received the world peace Reiki energy back in March, or even recently between now and then, there's another level of it coming in that's revealing the actual authentic inner peace, and it's strengthening. And so that's the other part of it, is people can go through empowerment, and the empowerment might be something that they have to learn how to be in some of that, more vitality or the expansiveness. And sometimes the expansion feels like if you're weight training and you're expanding, but your muscles are sore, but you're expanding. And so a lot of times that's the other thing that happens for people, is it's really an expansion. It can also suddenly have like these tremendous aha moments of understanding of the meaning of the universe for them. And so it can be very expansive. And that can also be uncomfortable for people, where we think, oh, that's what we always want. But then the energy is a lot to hold, and it can feel like a current, because that's the thing that really surprised me, was the physical current of the energy. So yeah, lots of reasons for it. And I would say that it's an ongoing learning. For me, it's an ongoing learning because we are in real life. And I think that's one of the simple, or the things that Reiki keeps trying to teach us, is it is for our everyday life. And the energy can align us into and train us into a higher level of thought, to manage the situations, to move beyond the resistances, to hold the level of empowerment that we're actually asking for. We should pull up Marianne Williamson's teaching of, it's not so much that we are afraid of being small, it's afraid that we're so afraid of playing big. And what does that mean? And understanding all of that. And so it happens for your clients and students too, because it's, they're asking kind of same things. A lot of people come into Reiki that are really learning how to manage their empathy. And so they can be running into some of those challenges. And I think for me, it's one of the main things that I do teach, is managing empathy and placing that field of Reiki around us, and so that we have like a filter there to manage our empathy. So that's another one that can be something that shows up for people. And a lot of people show up for classes that are what would be considered highly sensitive people. And then you also have people that come in that are, like very, very logical and analytical, and, have more of that really earth-based consciousness, left brain consciousness. And it also expands their consciousness with their left brain, with their logic, into higher levels of thought. And that can be another piece, because a lot of people are, in the belief system that, If you have a logical or analytical mind, that's different than an intuitive mind, or different than an imaginary mind. And it's Reiki will come in and expand that. So there's a shift in self-understanding of like, whoa, I can stay in my logical mind. I can stay in my analytical mind. I can stay in that, busy mind and still do all these things, have intuition, have imagination, have spiritual connection in how I think about it rather than how I feel about it. So it shows up as other styles of intuition. So that can be an empowerment that suddenly has a person just, like, okay, wait, there's a new understanding about that logical intuition is equal to like a creative intuition. So I think I feel complete with that.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get to Kim's question. The idea of, she was saying that she listened to William's podcast with us recently. And one of the things that he talked about in that was about spiritual development. And spiritual development also of Reiki knowledge, or, any other spiritual development that you may have, and just the historical basis around that, and the conjunction with the historical basis around that.
Okay, and I think it was also him talking about Reiki is meant to be developed.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Yep.
part of it.
Yeah.
So there is a historic basis for that statement. That is one of the main things, and this is actually in writing from Usui. One of the most important things for a Reiki practitioner to understand is to always receive let me get the words right. Hold on. Is that Reiki is meant to be developed, and for a Reiki practitioner to continue to receive higher, oh gosh, why is it? I say this quote all the time and it's not coming through. To always receive and develop higher quantities and qualities of Reiki energy. And so one of the reasons that piece is so important, and that was it's in the book A Modern Method of Reiki by Hiroshi Doi Sensei from Japan. And it's documentation that he has as he did his research, that was Usui's teaching, to always develop greater qualities and quantities of Reiki energy. So taking that back to the evolution of it and the understanding of it is really understanding that Usui Sensei practiced a very spiritual, intuitive style of Reiki and working with Reiki energy. He was a spiritual scholar and had studied religions from around the world. He was Shinto and Buddhist and was raised in, his ancestry was samurai, raised in a small village, Taniai village in Japan, and had always been a spiritual seeker and scholar. So he actually went up on Mount Kurama to receive enlightenment called Ansin Ditsume. And Ansin Ditsume is spiritual peace. And it's a specific type of enlightenment that he was asking for, to be able to be in peace, to follow his purpose through all circumstances in life. So then he understood that he was going to share Reiki with the world. And that part of it, to me, is a significant part of the foundational energy of Reiki that flows through us, because as he was setting his intentions, working with the energy, he was actually working with it very specifically to share Reiki with the world. That was the very first decision he made, was that he would share it with the world and spread it in the world and teach others to spread it in the world. And it was a unique decision at the time culturally. It would have been more common for him to keep the tradition for himself and his family, for their generational prosperity, because it was instantly popular. The other thing to understand is that when he received Reiki, he did not immediately have Reiki symbols or attunements or a system. He only connected with the energy. And other people had previously been working with Reiki energy, because remember, the word Reiki means the energy. He developed the system, the techniques to use the energy, connect with it, share it, receive it, give it, as he was learning how, and Reiki was teaching him how that worked. So it was a year later, after the Tokyo earthquake, where he had been working with the people in the recovery, and he worked tirelessly. He received an award from the mayor of Tokyo for his work during that recovery. And so he learned at that time that he needed to be able to share Reiki more quickly. Like, he needed to be able to teach it and had to develop actually some type of a system for it so he could pass it on. And that was always his intention, was to share it with the world, develop greater qualities and quantities of it, and teach others. He attuned over 2,000 people in just 4 years that he was alive. And then he also started the Gakkai, the organization that still exists today. And this is when, and he started teaching 20 of his advanced students that were also learning Reiki to achieve the state of Ansin Ditsume. So he was working with that, and that's when he developed the attunement system, was a year later, when he realized through the attunement, and likely from his studies, possibly in China and his Buddhist traditions, that the attunement could connect the energy to a person automatically. He also started working with symbols, and the distance symbol was the most prominent symbol that he was working with. So then he shared it with Dr. Hayashi, who was one of the 20, and 3 rear admirals in the Japanese Navy. Dr. Hayashi, because of his personal circumstances, was teaching Reiki in a very medical style and a standardized style. So he started to standardize Reiki with hand positions, and he developed the Hayashi Healing Guide. And the Hayashi Healing Guide is a system of ailments that people would present with. So different diseases, different injuries that people would present with. And then the hand placements were based on the organs that would treat those ailments. And then he wrote it in a manual that then he could teach his students according to this medical process of healing. And Usui Sensei worked with him to do that. It was, he wanted him to further develop it. Well, then when Mrs. Takada learned from Dr. Hayashi, we know she was a Hawaiian woman, Japanese woman, who was born and raised in Hawaii, and learned from Hayashi in Japan when she was there and became gravely ill. Then when she was sharing Reiki back in Hawaii, she was sharing it in the 30s and 40s, and then during World War II and after World War II, and to a Western world, traveled to the United States to teach it in the United States, furthering Yusui Sensei's instruction to continue to develop the system of Reiki and to continue to share Reiki with the world. So she actually innovated quite a few things in Reiki that we work with today that are, like really made Reiki available to everyone, that anyone could learn it. So she started working with the attunements and changed the attunement system so that the attunements actually attuned a person to the symbols. And so there was one attunement for a lifetime. She also was the one who innovated the standardized hand positions, the foundation, what we call the foundation hand positions. So those are hand positions that start at the head, go through the torso and down to the feet. And what that allowed was for people who did not know how to use the intuitive or spiritual practices of Yusui Sensei, or didn't have the medical knowledge that Dr. Hayashi had. And she said, well, if you just do these hand positions, you receive these attunements and you can share Reiki this way. So tremendous innovation that opened Reiki. Well, after she passed away, now we'll go to the next evolution of it when the Reiki Alliance, the 22 Reiki masters that Mrs. Takata taught at a master level. Oh, and that was the other thing, was in the late 70s, she's the one who innovated and brought in the Yusui master symbol and DKM, the Yusui master symbol. So, and developed a master class, which is very much, some type of a method that, we still work with today. And so then after she passed away, and there were 22 Reiki masters that she had trained, they got together and developed their system of Reiki called the Reiki Alliance. Now they were following Mrs. Takata's style of Reiki and agreed to do that. And one of the traditions that Mrs. Takata started with the Reiki master classes was that the fee for those classes was $10,000. And so that made it, a pretty limited affordability, because back then, that was in the late 70s, that's like $80,000 today, maybe even more with inflation. So in 1982, Iris Ishikura, who was one of the 22 that Mrs. Takata trained, she actually received the guidance from Reiki to change the fee for the master class. And she started to teach the master training with the Yusui master training for $500. And that's what started to open it up and made it available to more people. So now fast forward with her, that made it available to people like William Rand. He learned it from a man named Arthur Robertson in Michigan, and then he started to teach it. And then he was the one who received the next guidance to actually create a manual, to write a manual about Reiki. Well, he did that, and actually Mrs. Takata had taught that Reiki was only to be an oral tradition. So that was another evolution of it, another innovation that he brought in. And so he said what happened is his students would take classes, but they couldn't remember the different materials. He also innovated several other lineages. So he developed the Yusui Tibetan lineage because he had also learned a tradition called Rakuki from Arthur Robertson. And it had two master symbols from that were from Tibetan shamanism. And he combined those into one class because his students said, well, can't we just take one class instead of two? And so as he was listening to the guidance of the energy, did that. And then in the 90s, developed the Karuna Reiki system. That was also through guidance. Well, through the era of Mrs. Takata and into the 90s, really there was only one history of Reiki that was kind of known and taught worldwide. And so, and there wasn't really an avenue to research more because the connection to the Japanese Reiki traditions and teachers in Japan was lost after World War II. So in the late 1990s, a man named Orjava Petter was in Japan, and he had a person find him on his Reiki table. He was giving Reiki, and it turned out that this man was actually a Reiki master in Japan, and he was a member of the original Reiki Ryoho Gakkai started by Usui back in 1922. So from there, Arjava Petter's wife, Chetna, who was also a Reiki master and lived in Japan, and she actually was able to make the connections with the Gakkai, and that's when the Usui Memorial Stone was discovered in Tokyo, and it's a 10-foot stone. The history of Reiki was etched into it in 1927 after Usui passed away, and the history was actually etched into it by the Gakkai. So Chetna's mother translated the stone, and so when the stone was translated, the kanji on the stone was translated, a lot of discrepancies in the history that we knew in the West were kind of uncovered. So that led to research, and that led to discovering some of the members in Japan of the Gakkai that had the archived history of Reiki. So one of the things that really happened with that was the discovery of how Usui Sensei actually practiced through some of the techniques called the Japanese Reiki techniques. And they were a very intuitive, the techniques are very intuitive. So one of them being Biosen scanning. So where Mrs. Takata taught, the hand positions, Hayashi taught the hand positions according to anatomy. Usui practiced the hand positions based on intuition and scanning a body, determining where the person needed the Reiki. So that was just one example. It was also discovered that he was Buddhist and Shinto, and also discovered that he actually received Reiki through the intention of achieving Anshin Ditsume, the place of perfect peace. So that energy has always flowed through it. His intentions has always flowed through it of developing Reiki and working with Reiki. And you can see through this evolution that Reiki has always worked with the people according to the needs of the people, how they were working with it, what did they need? And it just simply works with them according to that. So in the 2000s, so much of the accurate history, the evidence-based history of Reiki was discovered, that it really opened the door to understand that there are many right ways to work with Reiki, and that Reiki is meant to be developed, and that is individually, and it is also collectively. And that there are lots of ways that really work well with Reiki. So for instance, as I was talking about doing things a specific way with specific rituals and specific methods, many people are really drawn to, just that daily honoring of a system exactly a particular way, and they learn depth that way. For me, there was a big freedom when I discovered that I actually could use both Mrs. Takata's hand positions and intuition. When I learned Reiki in 2000, I was actually trained that I had to do my hand positions exactly the right way and only for 3 minutes each. And the music would the chime after 3 minutes, and then I would know I could change hand positions. So that way works. I worked with that way for 3 years, and it did take me to a depth, and it was wonderful. And then when I found out that I could also move my hand positions according to intuition, that was a huge change for me, because I naturally wanted to do that, but I had been instructed that there were certain rules around how to do it. So now today, moving fast forward, in our particular lineage, or what I work with Holy Fire 3 and World Peace Reiki, it's another evolution of it. And at the same time, it's not meant to be like, oh, this is now better than, or everybody should do it this way. It's another energy that came in, and many of us resonate with it and are called to it. And we see through its system that it keeps developing. And then, of course, what we know is really a huge change in the evolution of Reiki was the online Reiki in 2020. And when that energy came in, and it was through deep listening to Reiki. It wasn't like hey, we have to do this to keep things going. The energy of Reiki came in and said, this can be done. And so it came in with William. He said yes to it. We worked with it, Robyn and I. And then Robyn and I had actually been very compelled to learn how to teach Reiki online through our Next Step Reiki classes. So we actually understood Zoom, how to use it, how to teach the classes online. And we were able to work with William and with the energy, and the energy kept coming in. And remember, I said I was really uncomfortable with that energy. It was so electric that it was compelling. It got us up every morning, like 3:30 in the morning. Get up, start writing. So that was another evolution of it. And what we see even in other lineages, they're teaching new things in different ways and compatibilities of Reiki. And we see Reiki developing into medical systems now, and research being done with it, proving its efficacy and the results of it, actually being able to be demonstrated. And so I would suspect that as we move forward, it will continue to develop. Another development of it is also from a scientific viewpoint, that Reiki energy can also be viewed as biofields, electromagnetic fields, frequencies. So it can be viewed even, with a different point of view about it and how it works and why it's working. And, where I happen to have a really spiritual view of it, but it's really kind of just because I like it that way. I'm very aware of the frequency part of it, the electromagnetic field part of it, the biofield part of it. So very long answer to that question, but kind of a thorough understanding of it, that Reiki energy, even before Usui, because he even evolved it from other books that had been written about Reiki. I think one of the main misunderstandings that happens with Reiki is people thinking that the Reiki techniques is what Reiki is. Reiki is the energy. The techniques connect us to the energy, give us an ability to receive it, give us an ability to, to share it. And so So really understanding there are many techniques that work to connect with the energy. And what my perception of it is that as we are ready to ask new questions, it upgrades us for it. Like it's already there. It's not evolving. We are evolving to it. And maybe it is evolving to work with us at the level that we can work with. It's one of the reasons I'm so excited about some of the current technology advances, and I won't go down that rabbit hole right now, but this chat GPT that's come in, it's an AI, artificial intelligence. I think one of the results of it is it's going to teach us how to ask better questions. So the other day I was in my session and I was asking, what can I do next? Because, we're always asking, and I like the subject. So always asking like, how can I, know more and engage in more with it all. And that was the answer I received is, well, there's some questions right here for you to ask. And so let yourself receive the questions you are ready to ask. And that has been, that for me is one of the big things from the very beginning of my Reiki journey through today is, at first I was like, I have no idea what questions to ask. And now it's saying, there's some more questions out there and I can receive them. So.
Well, the next question on the list, building up the energy, doing self Reiki, and this person is also trained in Qigong. And, should they do that practice before or after Reiki? And so I don't think that there's really a right or a wrong around that. First of all, it's kind of whatever you're guided to in your practice. And I could see both ways being a good way to practice, where you are kind of building up that energy and then going into self Reiki and integrating that energy. One is has the physical components to it. The other is the energetic components to it, although I know, Qigong has both as well. And then also I could see how it could go the opposite way, that, you're in your self Reiki for a period of time, and then you kind of integrate that energetic spiritual work in your physical movement practices. So I think both are correct. I would just listen to both practices to see, what you're feeling that day too, what you might have time for, and what the energy and the practices are guiding you to. Because some days it might be that you want to do before or are guided to do before for a variety of reasons. And another day you might feel guided to do your Qigong practice afterwards for a variety of reasons. So you have that listening piece of it, that perceiving piece of it, that intuitive piece of it. And then you also have the very practical pieces of it too. Are there reasons why you have to do it in a certain order? Maybe there's time reasons, maybe there's how you're feeling reasons. There's all of those kinds of practical reasons that can also have, a specific outcome on which order that you do it in. So I think that either practice is going to support the other practice. And I think you can kind of also see what you like too. If there's, I really prefer doing my Qigong practice before and then my Reiki practice, or vice versa. There's also that, your personal preferences into it, because again, all styles are right. And just really allowing the energy, your intuition, your instincts, all of those things to guide that process. I think that would be kind of the biggest answer, is really listening to you, listening to the energy, listening to your body, and seeing what works for you, because I don't think that there's a wrong way that you can do it.
Yeah, and I would just add that, you can do it during it. And, just in case your question has to do with how can, does Reiki combine? And with Qigong, of course, they're very much, complementary with each other. And, so it depends on, as Robyn said, your practice. But to add to that, Reiki is really very inclusive of other modalities, but some modalities only want you to work with that modality or that energy. And, they're going to ask you not to bring in Reiki energy. And so I've had both in my shamanic training, where I've been in, trainings and teachings and ceremonies where some of they want you to bring Reiki in and invite it in, and then others where they ask for, for everyone to just not be bringing in other energies other than what you're working with in that container. And then the other place that can show up is if you have licensing issues about Reiki, and how you can combine Reiki with, say, your professional work, your professional career. And one of the things that we answer for that is you can always activate that and your own Reiki zone to receive it. If it doesn't, then that's okay too.
Okay, so the next question is from Andrea. I have a question about the course, The 12 Heavens. Are there any written materials, documents shared during the course to be used for study, or is it all purely experiential? If there are written materials used, would the student get a lifetime access to these or be able to download to keep them? So great question. And there are some written materials, like for every module that we do have an accompanying PowerPoint, which we put into a PDF that you are welcome to download. And then we also do have the recordings of the course that you do have access to download them. And so we do recordings of the journeys, the invocations, and also the information that we have the accompanying PowerPoint to. And so the lifetime access, how that works is like we don't keep it on the Thinkific platform, which is the teaching platform that we use that hosts our online courses. But we do give you, the entire year to download all of it. And then as well as 90 days after the course ends to download all of the things that you want to download. So like many people in our current classes, they'll download the information, like the PDF of the PowerPoint that we use. They'll download the journeys, and then they'll download the invocations as well. So then you have those normally in video or audio form. And so sometimes it's just more appropriate that you would just download it in audio form. So like for the guided journeys, we'll do those and usually in audio only form, because most of the time you're not going to be watching it. You'll be using the audio only format. But yeah, you will have lots of time to do that, and lots of, information that you have access to that you can download and store on your computer. So then the next question is, I have been dreaming about strong Reiki activations and simultaneously having strong activations happening in reality. May or may not be, oh yeah. So I've been dreaming of having the Reiki activations while also having them like in waking life, real life. And so just wondering about that. When we're talking about activations, that it is Reiki experiences, those really strong Reiki experiences, when you can kind of feel that energy running through your body. And Colleen, you did kind of talk a little bit about it, where the energy was waking us up. In those, I would imagine that that's what this person kind of means by activations. And sometimes it can be that surge in power, can be the symbols, all of those kinds of things that can really come through in those time frames.
Yeah, so um, that can be part of it. And, really for me, Reiki, one of the things that Reiki is doing is really activating our imagination. And part of that is that often people think of their imagination as what they're using to make things up with. But your imagination is like the beginning of everything. Everything starts in your imagination. And so our limitation, thinking that imagination is only um, what we use to make things up with, or use it that way, it is actually a part of our brain function and our ability to think and to dream and to go deeper into our own self knowledge and knowledge that's accessible around us. And so, Reiki is very intentional in waking up our authentic intellect, which also includes our intuition and instincts. It's also activating your inner truth. So a lot of things start emerging, and a lot of what I was talking about with the holding the energy, and sometimes like it comes in this rush or this flood of experiences of expansion that we really don't understand yet. And we have experiences of them that show us that this is what's going on, but we really don't have a context or a belief system in it. And so that context and that belief system develops, but there's an expansion and an ability to be in the expansion. And sometimes it can be uncomfortable when you're in the expansion, or when you're not quite, like, you have no idea some of this stuff or how to handle it all. Sometimes your empathy, really shows up. Your psychic abilities are very activated. We teach that in the next step classes. That's why those classes decided to teach us to teach them, is because
This
we were
person is
seeing it.
actually, this person's actually in the next step classes. So it's
Oh, okay.
making me think too that, if it's
Yeah.
been happening since that started, is that many people actually, they part of their intuition is through their dreams.
Mhm.
Some people, it's not like, I know for me, generally speaking, I don't have, and Colleen, I don't really think you either, although it's not to say that it doesn't happen, but I don't really consider my intuition as a part of my dreaming life. I know that there's
Yeah.
subconscious things that are happening, so that's a separate subject. Um, but if Reiki also does help to increase our psychic abilities, so if that is a piece of your psychic abilities, and then especially with the work that we're doing in our next step classes to specifically go in and increase our psychic abilities or our intuitive abilities, it might be a part of that is expanding and um, you know presenting itself to you. And so there's actually even practices, I'm sure that you're aware of, practices that you can do to develop this, such as lucid dreaming. There's training that you can have and get to add to your skill training around developing these skills for you. And if this is something that continues, it might be something that's also talking to you and really giving you very concrete examples of the way that this might be happening, like that validation, like, oh, okay, it's happening in my dreams, then I'm experiencing it in real life. So it might be like showing you those examples that is to kind of also show you that this might be a part of your intuitive process, your intuition. And so, Colleen, I kind of cut you off. Sorry.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
that's helpful because that's what I was like, well, it is actually what we teach in Next Step. So yes, if you are in Next Step, it is part of that expansion, and part of the training is to develop skill with it so that you know how to work with it, what to do with it, and how, most importantly to me, is how to apply it. Like, how does that, apply in your daily life? But that is part of the development that occurs. The other thing that can be showing up too, depending on, I'm not really skilled in this part of it, but Neptune, the planet Neptune, has gone direct after being retrograde for quite a while, meaning that it's now moving forward again. And so that expansion can definitely be part of that intuitive expansion.
And sometimes, when we have these things happen, it can be like a little at first, like, wait a second, whoa, like what is
Yeah.
happening here? And sometimes the answer is actually to open further to it,
Yeah.
and ask the energy, give me as much as I can handle in this time frame. So being clear with our words also. But that the sometimes the answer is like, okay, well, show me what you're trying to show me here. If dreams are part of my psychic abilities, then where are the solutions that can come in to help me hone those? Where is the skill development that I can have to help me to understand them, to interpret them? Because I do know, again, I'm not super well versed in lucid dreaming and dreams as part of our psychic abilities, but from what I do know of them, there's definitely specific meanings behind them. Sometimes they're very uh, realistic's not the word that I'm hearing, but very direct in what they're saying. But then other times there's a lot of symbolism in them, and so getting skilled in that piece of it. And so you can ask the energy, point me in the path where I can be, learn more skill about this, learn more about this from skilled people, from really great resources too. Also, if that doesn't feel like that's exactly what's happening, or for anybody else that's listening that might have a similar question, because this isn't a uncommon question that kind of comes up, these sort of experiences. When we're dreaming, we do have a lot of that's going on in our subconscious mind, and that the energy might be working with us on a subconscious level. It's part of the reason that, like, in Reiki sessions, um, Reiki experiences, attunements, things like that, that we can go into those Reiki naps or those Reiki gaps. We can be very conscious of that we're falling asleep during them, because sometimes the energy does need to work in the subconscious layers, does need to, kind of get us out of the way, to work in the subconscious layers. And while I think your question is slightly different than that, your question might be that you're having these kind of psychic things show up, this intuitive piece show up that is then being validated in your real life. It's kind of answering it from a different perspective for others who might have that kind of a question come in too. That sometimes it is just our subconscious working things out. Sometimes it is the energy helping our subconscious and doing deep healing at a subconscious level that we're not aware of on the conscious plane. So for others that might have kind of different experiences, but they're in this realm of questioning, know that can be true as well. But really, if you're having very direct experiences in your dreaming life and then in your waking life, that I would definitely look into that as a part of your psychic abilities, really, really opening for you in this way.
Which is so fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little bit like, whoa.
Yeah. But that is when you kind of start to, like, okay, well, show me, opening to the
Mhm.
energy even more, opening that crown chakra, that crown chakra with it. And just allowing that process to happen for you, and then also asking the energy to support you, and also asking the energy to open as you are ready through this. So it's not just like
Well,
it can
and
be fun sometimes.
I
It
always
also
ask it too, to
works
come
sometimes.
in and be practical too.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, like, need you to be a little practical here.
Yeah.
So,
Show me your resources, show me the ways that I can learn more skill in this, because there's a lot out there about lucid dreaming and about dreaming as your intuition and psychic abilities. So okay, we have one more quick question that I do want to get. Okay, so how much time do you need to Reiki your water and food? Is the question.
you know, to me, it's like, what experience do you want to have of Reikiing your water and food? So you can spend time with it, you can cook with it, and, you know, really focus in on what you're doing, and, you know, get very engaged in it, because it's a great experience. And the same with your water. At the same time, I think you can also Reiki it as you go, Reiki on the fly. So intend it, work with it in whatever way is meaningful to you in that moment. And that can be different all the time. Like, you can really want to, I'm really going to work with this water. The same thing might be true when we are imbuing Reiki with other things. So, for instance, when I've been in hospital settings and, you know, using Reiki and a blood transfusion or chemotherapy, or when somebody's receiving an IV drip, for all different reasons, you can Reiki things. So lots of different right ways to do it. And each way that you do it will have a different experience. So to me, a lot of times it depends on how I want to do it, the situation I'm in doing it, and then the experience that I want to have. And so I know sometimes with cooking or with the food, I really enjoy the time with the food and time with Reiki with it. And then other times it's like, okay, Reiki, food, good. You know, so it's kind of always that way.
There's not really a wrong or a right with it. I would say probably the most common way that you see people doing it is like a prayer, you know, kind of like a quick prayer time length of time for it, where you're doing that before you eat. I would say that's kind of the most common length that people do.
Mhm. So I do have one other question Cheryl sent in
Okay.
at the last minute, and this is an important one and it's short. So she's actually asking about the intake forms that we use with the ICRT and Reiki.org, and you know, they're on Reiki.org that you can use. So they're an intake form where you're asking people for their name, address, information, and there's a paragraph talking about, you know, Reiki is not a substitute for medical attention or mental health help if that's what somebody needs. So greatly summarized in what I just said. One of the lines in it asks for current clients' current medications and dosages in the name of their physicians. And actually, when the next manuals get published, that line will actually be removed from that intake form. Because as Cheryl says, that, you know, we're really not diagnosing or interfering with treatment. So that level of questioning was really even before HIPAA. And so that was something that recently came up, like, yeah, we probably need to remove that from the forms. So if you are copying those forms and using them, just cross it out, and, you know, and people will know they don't need to fill it out.
Awesome.
Okay,
Well, I think that is all the questions that we have for today.
I think so. I think I want to add one more thing that I didn't say at the beginning of the promotions, because we just now got everything done and ready, that our Japan class is happening in April. William Rand and I are teaching on Mount Karama. Lana Takahashi, who lives in Japan, will be assisting us, and we are teaching a master class and a Karuna master class on Mount Karama. We will also be going to Taniai Village on April 15th and, sharing, that's the birthplace of Yusui, and we will be in a ceremony with the Shinto priest of the Amataka shrine there and visit this place where Yusui was born and the torii gate that he donated. And then we'll actually be having a Reiki share with the Taniai Reiki organization. So anyway, you can go to reiki.org for that information and look for the Japan classes under William's name. All right. I think that's
Awesome.
everything.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Again, you can, of course, find us at ReikiLifestyle.com. Our social media is either Reiki Lifestyle Official or Robyn Benelli Reiki. So you can join us there as well. And I think that's kind of it. We just always appreciate everybody joining us here live, everybody's involvement in this monthly episode, and the questions that you send in to us. So thank you all. I think that's kind of it.
That's it. Shall we open the circle?
All right, go ahead.
Say, okay, so we're opening the circle. So we just place our hands in Gasho, take a moment to say thank you and all the blessings that we receive. And thank you to ourselves, each other, the enlightened ones, teachers and descendants. We receive these blessings today. And so it is.